And let's clarify. Those of you who hear this and say, oh, you know, it says, unless you hate your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, you can't be my disciple. Whew, I'm so happy because I can't stand those people in my life. No, he's not talking about that. He's not talking about animosity, hate. He's talking about choice. And he's talking about priority, Jesus is. So he's telling us, unless you prioritize me first, forget it. Now, this is Luke's gospel. He's walking. Again, got to remember, Luke's gospel is arranged as a journey to Jerusalem. So while Jesus is talking, even the gospel you heard last week and the gospel you hear next week, it's all while Luke has Jesus journeying toward Jerusalem. And why Jerusalem? Because of the cross and resurrection. The ultimate destiny is to reveal himself as Son of God, taking on the cross and achieving the resurrection through the will of God. So it's a journey. That's why the crowds were traveling with Jesus, because he's on a journey. He's a peripatetic, a preacher who teaches while he's walking. You know, sometimes we love people like Jesus is asking us to love, like head over heels, nobody else exists. Think of your first love, whether it was a relative or someone you eventually married or someone you didn't marry but it was your first love. Think of how head over heels you were with falling in love with that person. Nothing else mattered. If you were a teenager, the curfew didn't matter. How much you spent on the date didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Your parents saying, keep away from her, she's bad influence, didn't matter because you fell in love blindly. Well, Jesus is asking us to choose him like that, but better. To choose him to be number one. That's odd. He wants to be number one in our lives, to set our priorities straight. When I'm counseling people, I tell them to avoid black and white thinking. Black and white thinking is my way or no way. And you can't gray it up a little bit. You can't balance it. That black and white thinking is narrow-minded. Jesus comes pretty close to that today. I'm not going to tell Jesus, sorry, Jesus, no black and white thinking. But he's definitely an all or nothing person today in the gospel and the Holy Scriptures. The Scriptures tell us who Jesus is, not like a story you open up a history book and read, not like a newspaper article, something happened today, something happened yesterday. No, the Gospels are written as living Word of God. So while we're listening to this Gospel of Luke, we're walking with Jesus. And don't do it right now, but in your head and in your imagination, look to your right and to your left, and think of how important those people are in your life. Jesus says, I want a little more from you. He points out something very odd about taking up the cross. And please, don't insult Jesus by saying your pain in the back or your disability or your inconvenience or your mother-in-law or son-in-law or your cross. Not so. Human suffering is human suffering. If someone in your family causes you to suffer, you have a few choices. Negotiate, talk, be civil, or if they really are toxic, put a wall. Don't talk to them. Because sin is anything that leads you into sin. So we're mandated to stay away from the near occasions of sin. So I'm going to go with that, with the people attitude there. However, Jesus is saying, I want you to live like I'm number one. I want you to live like I'm the first person you refer to. I'm your priority. But Jesus, how about my mother, my father, my heritage, my kids? Yeah. They're all important. But if you choose them over me, you're not really going to love them completely. Because, Jesus' words, he's the Son of God. He's God. You live in Jesus, you're living in God. We live in Jesus, we're living in love. Authentic, self-giving love. Then you look back in your families and friends, oh, if I love Jesus, I'll have a way of dealing with my lovable mother, father, sister, brother, or I'll have a way of dealing with my pain in the neck mother, father, sister, brother. For Jesus is first. I'm not first. Jesus is first.